Hey there, Igniter. Monica Landau from theworldneedsyourbook.com. Today is day 7 of the challenge. We are talking about fatal flaws in your main characters, specifically your protagonist. We are on day 7 of the challenge, 1 week into the challenge. So first of all, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back if you've made it this far. It's a huge accomplishment. Today we're talking about character fatal flaws, and the fatal flaw is a very important piece of the storytelling structure. It is what it's a foundational piece of the emotional or character arc behind the plot. So this is something that you're going to want to have. You want to know what the fatal flaw of all your main characters are. So specifically your protagonist, if you want, your antagonist as well, but also any other point of view characters. You will probably want a fatal flaw for them. The reason why, not every single point of view character, but the ones who are going to appear in multiple chapters that you are going to follow with a character arc, those characters need a fatal flaw as well. So you need to understand what drives them emotionally. The fatal flaw is going to help you create that emotional resonance with your readers, and it's the thing that really excites people about characters in general. So what's going to happen is you choose the fatal flaw for them. That fatal flaw is revealed for each character toward the beginning of the book, and by the end of the book, that character has conquered their fatal flaw, and they've really had a transformation as a result of conquering their fatal flaw. So in finding the fatal flaw, again, for your protagonist, your antagonist, any really important or point of view characters in the story, for each character you want to know what the fatal flaw is. Really get it down to like a very simple sentence. So for example, in Game of Thrones, a television show based on the books, the series A Song of Ice and Fire, Jon Snow's fatal flaw, for example, is really around shame and honor. And so his whole storyline, his whole transformation arc is moving from shame to honor. And then, well, if you saw the ending of Game of Thrones, sorry, this is a spoiler, he actually moves back to shame, but is okay with it. That's how a number of the Game of Thrones story arcs ended up being. It was very full circle, where they kind of were able to overcome their flaw, and then they came back to it in the end. So that was interesting. But, if you look at Jon Snow's fatal flaw, shame to honor, you see like all of the symbolism around shame. So the very first thing is his last name is Snow, which indicates that he is a bastard in the North. And so this is shame right there. Like that, it's a very shameful thing to be in this world. So he goes to the Night's Watch in order to create a sense of honor for himself. But then, he does a number of things that are shameful over the course of the series. So like one is that he dates a wildling. 2 is that he starts to negotiate with the wildling king. 3, he ends up letting the wildlings through the gate. So there are just all these things that he does that are considered shameful. He's doing them because he sees them as honorable. They meet his code of honor, and he ends up dying for that. So which is part of that storyline. So if you break down his entire storyline, you'll see like all the symbolism and story behind that. How the fatal flaw is ruinous to the character. So that's what I was just talking about. It caused, Jon Snow ends up dying at one point because of this fatal flaw of trying to find honor and trying to overcome the shame that he's experiencing. So he's like, he is born into a role of shame. And so he just continues to try to be honorable and to live up to his father. It doesn't, not his father, but who he thinks is his father, who also died due to honor. So it's like this whole, it's kind of like history repeating itself for him. And so then, the last thing is how the character conquers that fatal flaw by the end of the story, which I also talked about with Jon Snow. He basically goes right back to the thing that is shameful in this society. So he commits regicide. I believe that's what it's called. So he, the most shameful thing in the whole story was killing your king. So like betraying your king. And Jon Snow ends up doing that. He ends up betraying the person he has pledged his loyalty to. And because of that, he receives a punishment of shame, which is to be exiled to the wall, to the Night's Watch. Again, even though the Night's Watch is basically disbanded by the end of the story. And he's very accepting of this. So he tried so hard to be honorable according to the system, the system that he was born into, and ended up finding his own version of honor. And so this is how you develop these transformational storylines. You want to get very clear on what that is. And if you look at Jon Snow, he's a great example of this. You will see that every part of his story is aligned specifically to shame and honor, like every single part. So it always aligns back to that fatal flaw. Another example of this is Harry Potter. It's the same thing. He's actually the same archetypal character as Jon Snow, but his whole thing is not shame to honor. It's actually it's more of like rejection to acceptance. And so he, the whole entire series, he is struggling with like a lack of confidence. He basically feels rejected, through the entire series. So he feels rejected by Dumbledore. He feels rejected by his classmates. He feels rejected by his professors. And so rejection is just this huge piece of like who he is. And it's truly his fatal flaw. You can trace it back through all 7 of the books. You can see where he rejects people due to his fatal flaw. And by the end of the story, he has really overcome that, where he's figured out how to stop rejecting himself in order to save the world, basically, or save the wizarding world. So I have a number of these boxes. There's room for several characters, and you'll just map out what is the fatal flaw, what is the symbolism, story, or sentence behind the fatal flaw, how is the fatal flaw ruinous to the character, and how does the character conquer the fatal flaw by the end of the story. There's also a page for additional notes if you need more room for characters, or if you just want to map this out in greater detail or map out other questions around the fatal flaw. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope this has been helpful to you. Already done with 1 week of the challenge. Very exciting. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment and I can get back to you and help you out. Maybe share a resource that could be helpful to you. Additionally, if you haven't signed up for the challenge yet, make sure you go to the links below in the description. That will take you to a page that explains the challenge and how you can get involved and participate. And remember that the challenge is free, so there's no cost to join. It's really just free and fun and lots of resources that can support you during the next 30 days. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful day.